So the NBA rumors, player movement, and all of these type things comes down to basically one thing. What we see this summer is an NBA arms race, right? Not for 2020. We just saw Denver beat the Lakers tonight. We saw the Celtics do their thing the other night, and both teams that are down look to keep their seasons alive. So there's nothing. So there's nothing the other 26 teams can do at this point is lament what happened during the regular season in the playoffs. However, this offseason, in my opinion, is shaping up to be an NBA arms race, right? And not just any random, go after the best free agent, who's going to draft the best player. I mean, I think it's 2020, 2021, that season is going to be a flat out race to the championship from day one of the off season. And you're probably thinking like, I don't know, man. That's what teams do every year. The goal of every team should be winning the championship and blah, all that. Teams are going to change their culture. What else? What other kind of things we say? We use buzzwords like change the culture, spacing the floor, 3-and-D, stretch four, whatever term you want to say, blah, blah, blah. At this point, none of that is what I'm really getting at, because we use buzzwords to make ourselves look as if, we know what we're saying, when nobody really has a distinctive definition for what changing an NBA culture is. Like, how do you change an NBA culture? You know what I mean? Because you can keep the same culture, but if you're winning championships, do you have a culture problem? No, because the goal is to win championships, just like we discussed. You know what I mean? So now, with all that said, I'm just going to talk to you about the arms race. For one, so I recently heard Giannis wants to play with Chris Paul. My. How these rumors seem to be mighty convenient when Giannis can't win a championship without Chris Paul. At the same time, Chris Paul becomes available via trade, or at least so the rumor says, right? So where is your team in this arms race scenario, this showdown, this race from day one? I'm a Knicks fan, so I'm going to talk to y'all about this from a Knicks perspective. Right. So in the East, you have the Milwaukee Bucks. Right. So their best players are right now Giannis Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton. So they lost in a terrible way, and their organization desperately wants to win with their young budding superstar, two-time MVP, two-time Player of the Year, Giannis Antetokounmpo. They desperately want to win. They don't know how long they'll be able to keep him. They are looking at maybe even going over the salary cap to try to keep Giannis and bring in more help, right? Here's the thing. Who wants to play basketball in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? Wisconsin is probably one of the least diverse states as far as culture goes. And I'm talking about in terms of race, like outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As soon as you step out of Milwaukee, it's not diverse at all, right? What superstar wants to go there? Okay. Also, so Milwaukee is up north in Wisconsin, right? What guy is saying, I want to leave New York or South Beach or LA or Memphis or wherever to go play in Milwaukee, Wisconsin? So the Bucks have this thing. They have these built-in disadvantages, because they have the diversity issue. They have the weather issue. They have the market size issue and all these things, but they have probably the best player in the NBA right now, right? So they have that. That's a big time draw, right? So who goes there, right? You have Chris Middleton, you have Eric Bledsoe, a bunch of contracts or whatever. But I don't see anybody looking to go there. But they have Middleton, who's an all-star, and they have Giannis, who's the MVP. So in this arms race, they probably in the East, they may be the leaders in the clubhouse, like a full arsenal of weapons or whatever. I could see a scenario where Giannis missed time and Chris Middleton can still drag that team to the playoffs, maybe at 40 and 42. I think Chris Middleton is that good. I'm not saying he's a franchise saver, but a Chris Middleton with decent surrounding cast could get that team to the playoffs. And Giannis without Middleton is probably winning 50 games, but they're nowhere near they're nearly nowhere near the 1-2 punch type scenario where you have Middleton and Giannis together. And I'm not by no means saying Middleton is a top 20 player. I'm saying he's definitely top 30 because he's an all-star. So that shows you he's top 30 right there just because he made the all-star team, right? Giannis is maybe top 2, right? But then you have the Toronto Raptors. So what do you really have in the Toronto Raptors? They're in the arms race scenario. They have an excellent team president, right? They have an excellent head coach. They have an excellent developmental system. Like next year, somebody else will show up on the radar for Toronto. Somebody we hadn't seen this year because they develop guys. We don't know who that player is yet, but that player soon come. Basically, you know what I'm saying. Toronto is they develop. Your Fred Van Vliets, your Norman Powell's, your Pascal Siakams, your OG Ananobis. All those. I was gonna say Terrence Howard, whatever his name is, Terrence, whatever his name is. So they develop guys. In terms of stuff, I would say I trust the organization more so than I trust the roster. Believe me, Toronto is going to be a major player heading into the playoffs next year. We don't know how. We don't know if Siakam's going to come back with the 2 go-to moves. Maybe that's the move this summer is not go after a free agent, but improve what you have. But you can best believe Toronto is a major player when it comes to NBA championships. I mean, they are right now still the defending NBA champs, right? You also have your Boston Celtics. So in the arms race, the Boston Celtics roster is maybe one of the more intriguing teams in the East. I mean, they have a Jaylen Brown, a Jason Tatum, a Gordon Howard, a Kemba Walker, and a bunch of good vet players. And some young stud players like Robert Williams looks like he's going to be a player. Romeo Langford is going to be somebody someday. Once he learns, what offense is, he's going to be something. I think if the Celtics are able playoff runs for the next few years, right? All right, so then you have your Philadelphia 76ers. So who knows? Philly is like the team with a bunch of weapons, but they may be pointing in the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying? You have a Joel Embiid who's the classic big man in the half court, get him the ball where he can operate out of the low mid post, get his shot, dominate the opposing team's big man on offense and defense. And then, Joel Embiid, and he's also expanded his game where he can shoot 3-pointers and mid-range game. Pretty good passer, rim protector, shot blocker. JoJo can do it all from the center position. The main thing with him is can he stay healthy? His body also looks like he's not in shape, not the kind of in shape for a top 10 NBA player. If JoJo comes back in tip-top shape and can stay healthy, the league better watch out. And I think the thing with Ben Simmons Ben Simmons, while he doesn't shoot the three and doesn't shoot it at a high percentage, my man can score. I mean, he scores a lot. He's a good scorer. I mean, most of his stuff is attacking the basket. And at 6'10", 240 pounds, maybe one of the fastest guys in the NBA, very agile and nimble. You know, having him at power forward, to me, I think is a disservice to the roster. I think you have to have him play point guard because he's an excellent perimeter defender at 6'10", 240. The dude is Moses Malone's size, right? Playing point guard. And is an excellent rim protector. Excellent perimeter defender. So you have an excellent perimeter defender in Simmons, and you have an excellent rim protector in JoJo. I think the sky's the limit for this team if they get a guy that can bring to that team execution in the half court. None of this depending on Al Horford to space the floor jazz. I don't even know why Elton Brand signed him. To me, I think it was, tying the anchor to your own leg and throwing the anchor overboard. Why would you sign Tobias Harris and Al Horford to these huge contracts? I think what happens in this offseason is a team, I think they look to move Tobias Harris and Al Horford and bring in guys that just can flat out shoot the rock from three, some 3-and-D wings. Tobias Harris is pretty good, but he's excellent at the power forward mismatch. They start him at the 3, but if a 4 is switched onto him, he's going to abuse that matchup. And he's an average scorer against small forwards. So if you count that, he's probably like a 20-point-a-game scorer. And defensively, he contributes to team defense, right? So that brings me to your Miami Heat. And I say your Miami Heat because they're the darlings of this playoff. Oh, if the center should be more like Bam Adebayo, Jimmy Butler. What's my draft pick? I wish we could draft Isaac Okoro so he can turn into Jimmy Butler. If RJ Barrett had game like Jimmy Butler. So I see all this stuff on Twitter, and shout out to Nick's Twitter, by the way. It's Nick's Twitter is the GOAT, right? So I'm on a lot. This thing. Nick's Twitter is like, just like seeing the bully beat up other kids, and you just walk up to the bully as a wimp just to see if you can knock him out. And every day you get your face smashed in, but occasionally you'll hit the bully and you'll make him grunt or whatever, or take a step back. And you know what I'm saying? And that's your moral victory. You know what I'm saying? You made the bully stop pounding another kid because you punched him in the back and he turned around and looked at you. That's like dealing with Nick's Twitter on a daily basis. So anyway, the Miami Heat, right? So they're a well-run organization. Their main goal is to win a championship every year. No rebuilding, blah, blah, blah. They don't care about none of that stuff. Their main goal is to win. They have an excellent team president in Pat Riley. They have an excellent and proven head coach in Eric Spoelstra. So in this arms race or whatever, the Miami Heat are rock steady, right? So whether they add a piece this year or not remains to be seen. They're in the Eastern Conference Finals right now with a roster that I'm sure they're looking to add something to in 2021 as opposed to 2020. But at the same time, if I think they would be happy with the girl they brought to the dance. You know what I'm saying? Basically, that roster. The 3-point shooting has been crazy. They have elite perimeter wing defense in Jay Crowder, Andre Iguodala, and Jimmy Butler. That seems to be the formula nowadays. Rim running big, 3-point shooting from your guards, wings that can lock down guys and shoot the 3. So they're loaded if in terms of that. So in this arms race, I think they're pretty much good to go. So an intriguing team is the Brooklyn Nets. I don't know if their team president is an excellent team president, right? But he was smart enough to get KD and Kyrie, right? I don't know if Steve Nash is an excellent head coach, You know, I like Steve Nash as in terms of what he brings to the game of basketball. Um, none of us has really seen what he can do with a clipboard in his hand. You know, the whiteboard. I think the whiteboard is going to make or break Steve Nash as a head coach, because in terms of the managing of personalities and such, Steve Nash has always been that guy. Steve Nash is that guy that stars can go to and confide in and get advice from and such. He's a 2-time league MVP, so Kevin Durant can go talk to him about certain things on that MVP level, and Steve Nash will be able to identify. Right, the rest of their roster, I'm not for sure what they have. You know, Karis LeVert is a pretty good player. Dinwiddie is a pretty good player, but we hadn't seen them play with Kevin Durant yet, which is the $1 million question. Like, for one, is KD going to come back as the 28-year-old KD, or is he going to be, you know, Dante Culpepper? Y'all remember Dante Culpepper used to play for the Vikings, and remember he tore up his knee and came back and was never the same. And it looked like he was a shell of himself. Is that what KD is going to look like at 6'11", 240? You know, with a torn Achilles, coming off a torn Achilles? We'll see. I'm thinking it's going to be leaning more towards semi-MVP Kevin Durant. That Kevin Durant that the Toronto Raptors saw in the playoffs before because remember, he played injured and he was still giving Toronto the business. But at the same time, you know, I think that Kevin Durant is what we'll probably see for the next 2 years. Just a super high level superstar. When motivated, can be the best player in the game. When unmotivated, you know, top 10 guy. That's fair. I mean, he's a veteran. You know, he's 30-something years old, coming off an Achilles injury. He'll probably, you know, just get up for big games, maintain a all-star level scoring average, because he doesn't have anything else to prove. He's won league MVP. He's won finals MVP. He's won 2 championships. I mean, what else does Kevin Durant need to prove? I mean, that he can win in Brooklyn? I mean, that's nothing, because if he doesn't win in Brooklyn, his legacy is not going to be tarnished. Right? Well, what about Kyrie? Kyrie's is injury prone, team buster. You know, he's not the guy that you feel like he's not Captain America. But at the same time, without all the noise, when it's just basketball between the lines and the cat is healthy, the dude can carry your franchise on every level. I'm talking about regular season and playoffs and NBA finals. He hit that shot over Curry, and if it had not been for that shot, the Golden State Warriors would have 4 straight NBA championships. Think about that. In this era, the Golden State Warriors would have had 4 straight NBA championships. Man, think about that. In this era, 4 straight. We just exited the era of Miami Heat versus San Antonio Spurs, right? Maybe like 5 years ago, maybe 6 years, 7 years ago, whatever it is. And they would go back and forth. Golden State jumped on the scene and went to like 5 straight finals. It's impressive. If you're not impressed by that, you're crazy. So, but anyway, about Brooklyn, in this arms race thing, you're like, man, I hate Brooklyn. Let me. I was gonna start the video, but let me just interject my Knicks fan. Man, I hate the Brooklyn Nets. I think the uniforms corny. I think what did they play at? Barclays Center smell like eggs. I hate Brooklyn, man. Brooklyn fans, I know y'all gonna hit the dislike button on this video. I don't care. So what? Knicks fans gonna carry me. It's more Knicks fans out there. Knicks fans outnumber y'all like 30-1. Every time y'all hit the dislike button, Knicks fans gonna hit the button twice. Now take that. Yeah. Now let me just get back to what I'm talking about and being an adult, right? Even though I despise Brooklyn and I hate to, I'm gonna have to brush my teeth after talking about Brooklyn. But anyway, I'm moving on to the Orlando Magic and this arms race or whatever to the playoffs, man. The Magic don't impress you with nothing. What does an Orlando Magic franchise impress you with? Like, what do you have to have out of that franchise? Is their team president good? No. Is their head coach? Does their head coach impress you? No. What about their best player? Is it Jonathan Isaac? Well, he's hurt, out for a long time. Is it Aaron Gordon? I mean, so I like Aaron Gordon, right? So here's why, and I know this is gonna sound so petty, but for those of y'all that watch BET late night when the news come on, Ed Gordon, yeah, y'all remember Ed Gordon? That's Aaron Gordon's daddy, man. Right, you didn't know that. I did. I learned that like last year. But anyway, that's one of the reasons why I kind of like Aaron Gordon, because he reminds me of BET back in the day when Ed Gordon used to do the news and blah blah blah. But anyway, all right. So Orlando doesn't present anything. I'm thinking as a Knicks fan, all we need to do is get a couple of free agents and we can leapfrog Orlando. Orlando is one of those teams that's, you know, on thin ice. Their best player is hurt and out for a long time, and they were an 8 seed to start with. So I think we can leapfrog them. All right, so I'm moving on to the Charlotte Hornets. They don't present any. I'm not afraid of Terry Rozier or Devontae Graham or T.J. Washington or what's the other kid name? Miles. What's his name? Y'all know his name. You know the kid I'm talking about. The kid we passed up to draft Knox. Anyway, him. He's so memorable that I can't remember his name. So anyway, moving on to the Pacers. I think the Pacers are a problem. And I think the Pacers are a problem because I don't know what they're going to do. I know they're not going to miss the playoffs because the Indiana Pacers are a well-run organization, though they pinch pennies, right? So I'm sure they're going to make a basketball move in order to make themselves better, whether it's hiring an elite level head coach or trading away duplicate assets in order to fill another position. I think in terms of the arm race, they're not a major threat. I think they're 41-41. But at the same time, 41-41 is pretty decent to a Knicks fan since we hadn't made the playoffs in forever. So what? So the Washington Wizards are intriguing to me because John Wall will be returning, right? So John Wall will be coming back. Bradley Beal will be back. And they also have that kid, Rui Hachimura. So with Wall and Beal, the Wizards were a playoff team. They had Wall and I think they had Morris and some other random veterans, but at the same time, I don't see them ascending to the top of the East, but I think they will be a major player, right? John Wall coming back with something to prove. Bradley Beal, something to prove. Averaged 30 points a game and didn't make the playoff, make the All-Star team. Definitely has something to prove, right? I look for them to maybe do something major, add a third star potentially. DC is not a bad place to live. I think they may have money with Jan Mahimi coming off the books and some other whack contracts they signed or entered into, say 3 or 4 years ago. So I think a bunch of them will be coming off the books. So DC may be a major player. I don't know exactly who they'll get, but at the same time, their biggest deal was secondary playmaking without Bradley Beal on the floor. They needed 3 and D wings. Troy Brown and Hachimura and Jerome Robinson were not as impressive as you would like for them to be last year, but at the same time, I think they will all be players in time. Look for the Wizards to do something. I don't know. I don't know what. So I don't know. I don't know what they'll do. Maybe a center. Maybe. Um, a Clint Capella to the Wizards. If Atlanta drafts the other kid, Onyeka Okongwu, if they, or vice versa, Onyeka to the Wizards would be really impressive. I think that might be able to get the Wizards, over the hump. Maybe 42-40, maybe 45 and whatever number of losses. I don't know. My math is not good. I'm shooting this video, in the middle of the night, so my math is not on, and I'm not pulling up a calculator. So, all right. So I have a bunch of the Elite 8 teams here. The Cavs, Bulls, Pistons, Hawks, and Knicks. So the Cavs suck. They don't have any weapons. Colin Sexton is a shoot-first point guard that won't pass the ball at all, and that never works. That never works for a playoff team. I would say look for the Cavs to maybe trade Kevin Love somewhere like maybe Portland, where he could, go and be the third option, just hit the glass, and shoot the three, stretch the floor. I would say that's my rumor, right? That's the scenario I'm looking at. That nobody said that. I'm saying it. Uncle Freezy's saying it, right? The Pistons, I think, the Pistons are, to me, the most intriguing team in the East right now. Not because of who they have on a roster, but because of a couple of reasons, right? They're starving to make a playoff run, right? I watch Detroit Pistons content makers on YouTube, and they are just as thirsty as Knicks fans. I saw one guy, some dude, I don't know what his name is, and I don't care to promote his channel and such, but he looked through the possibility of the Knicks trading for Julius Randle, and he basically bashed our roster as being void and called us the worst organization in sports. And to hear that from a Detroit Pistons fan, it kind of got me a little chapped. But anyway, so his point is the Pistons are starving, damn near begging for a playoff contender. They have Blake Griffin, who is a shell of himself, right? He's probably 90% of the Blake Griffin that played with the Clippers, but at the same time, he's developed handles and a somewhat decent three-point shot, so you can stretch the floor. They also have Christian Wood, who is the darling of some Knicks fans. I don't see Christian Wood leaving Detroit because he's in the perfect situation where he can get all the minutes at a position that he likes to play, and can be kind of like a franchise saver. Detroit has all the money to sign him, so I don't see him leaving. I do see Detroit, though, being in the running for, and so I have two teams being in the running for Fred VanVleet. That is the Phoenix Suns, and the Detroit Pistons. If the Phoenix Suns are able to acquire, say, a Chris Paul, then you could definitely see Detroit throwing the absolute bag at Fred VanVleet. The bag. I'm talking about, like, I think the dude is worth maybe 16 and a half, 17 mil. I can see Detroit offering him 23 mil for 4 years, just because they want to be relevant. And then you couple him with Luke Kennard, who is turning into a decent playmaker and such. Don't be surprised. And so here's the sleeper. Don't be surprised to see Detroit trade a pick for Chris Paul. Reunite Chris Paul and Blake and Christian and have Christian Wood. Detroit wants to make the playoffs bad. The East is down, and one or two key transactions can get them to the second round of the playoffs. And so don't be surprised to see Detroit. And listen, this is not an NBA rumor. This is Uncle Freezy speculating. Don't be surprised to see Detroit upgrade their point guard position and playmaking. In a perfect situation for them, they could lead the draft with, say, a Devin Vassell And so they could literally have Fred VanVleet, Luke Kennard, Devin Vassell, Blake Griffin, and Christian Wood, which doesn't sound like, super impressive, but I think that team could probably make some noise in the East, if not make the playoffs. I'm just saying make some noise. I don't know if that means 40 wins or 50 wins. Make some noise means maybe win some games they shouldn't and lose some games they shouldn't. Like knock off the Bucks on Christmas Day and lose to the Knicks on Valentine's Day is basically what I'm getting at. So in terms of Atlanta, I can't see with Atlanta's roster is so flawed that I can't see Atlanta doing anything. They have a shoot first, excellent playmaking point guard, right? Trae Young's an excellent playmaking point guard, but he's literally the worst defender in the league. The worst. He's frail. He doesn't give effort on D. And so for Atlanta to go anywhere, they have to be able to get stops. It's the reason why they drafted DeAndre Hunter and Kevin Huerter, because they know they need to get defensive stops on the wings. And while Huerter is coming along, DeAndre Hunter is coming along. They traded for Clint Capella, in terms of rim protection. I think the rim protection comes second to perimeter defense with them. If everybody is getting blown by on a perimeter, no matter who you could put Mutombo back there, and he's not going to be able to stop every shot. You know what I mean? It is what it is, and you can see the look on Lloyd. I was going to call him Lloyd Banks. You can see whatever Lloyd's name is, Lloyd, whatever his name is. The dude is flat out frustrated with their lack of effort on defense. At the same time, the dude's a sharp young coach. And how I know is because out of timeouts, you can tell he has a feel for the game, right? So he has a feel for the game. Like one of their staples is getting out of timeouts, getting lobs to John Collins to get him into games. Like John Collins literally can catch maybe 2 lobs a game coming out of dead ball situations, right? And while you say, 2 lobs, hey man, 4 points to your scoring average is a lot. 4 points, there's a difference between a guy being a 16-point-a-game scorer and a 20-point-a-game scorer. There's a huge difference in their perspective, the way teams look at them on a scouting report and how they are viewed around the league. The Bulls are exactly what they've always been. To me, the Bulls are probably the 4th worst franchise in the NBA. And they have like a heyday. Like every now and then, the NBA will gift them somebody like a Michael Jordan or a Derrick Rose. But outside of them getting gifted a superstar, they're always 30 and 52. And the unfortunate thing is for young NBA fans, they think the Bulls have been great forever, but the Bulls have been garbage forever aside from 2 eras, the Jordan years and the short-lived D Rose years. Now, you can say they made the playoffs without D Rose with Rondo and somebody else, but so what? The Knicks made the playoffs one time, like with Carmelo and nobody. So, all right, so on to my Knicks in the arms race. So, what weapons do the New York Knicks have in this arms race, right? Is RJ Barrett a superstar? No. Is Mitchell Robinson a superstar? No. Do the Knicks have veterans that may be able to pull the slack to maybe get them to 40 wins? No. Is a team president and an excellent team president somebody that'll make the right moves when the time comes? No. And I say no right now. Y'all say wait and see. It's his first time. No, I'm not waiting and seeing. I'm going to say exactly what his resume says he is. He's a newbie, new to the league. And though he surrounded himself by a bunch of excellent talent, he has proven nothing so far, right? Nothing on the court. He's done nothing on the court to improve the team, right? Is Tom Thibodeau an excellent head coach? Yes, right? But was he an excellent head coach? Yes. Is he an excellent head coach? I'm not for sure, because those years in Minnesota, he didn't look like it. He had, and I know y'all gonna say, well, he made the playoffs. And no, listen, hear me out on this. Tom Thibodeau had 3 number 1 picks on the same team, and they didn't win 50 games. He had Karl Anthony Towns, he had Andrew Wiggins, he had Derrick Rose. All were the number 1 picks in the draft, and he couldn't take that team to 55, 56 wins in the West. Yeah, there's something to think about, New York Knicks fans. After he left Minnesota, he basically tried to reinvent himself, but at the same time, his track record says he's not going to play rookies at point guard, right? Your roster is going to have to be deep because there are going to be a lot of injuries. He brought in Mike Woodson, who we love, by the way, but Mike Woodson is not keen on rookies either. Young players. So what does that mean? Does that mean we're going to trade away assets in order to get veterans? You know, are we going to trade away Mitchell Robinson to get a Chris Paul? I know that's not the rumor, or nobody said that. I'm asking you as a Knicks fan or an NBA fan of the NBA, is that what you think Leon Rose is going to do in order to fit Tom Thibodeau's needs? Is Damian Dotson a keeper? I don't know. Damian Dotson is an excellent player, definitely a starter in the NBA, in my opinion, when he's healthy. But when is Dot ever healthy? When is he not, playing through an elbow injury, waiting, in February, waiting to the end of the season to get elbow surgery? When is he ever, not playing through a shoulder injury and he needs off-season surgery and, the following months to recover? When is he not dinged up? Can he hold up to the NBA pounding? That's a legitimate question you need to ask about Damian Dotson. Because otherwise, when Dotson's healthy, he's a starter. He's a starter in the NBA. My only thing is, when is he healthy? Right? So what do you do about Kevin Knox? What do you do about Kevin Knox? Kevin Knox, in my opinion, is loaded with potential. I think people devalue him because he's stoic at times. Stoic most of the time. They think being stoic is being lazy, and it's not. They think people that don't talk, people that are quiet, people that are introverts, don't have passion. And that's BS. That's the BS line of the year. People that are introverts are passionate. They do have passion about stuff. You don't make it to this level if you don't have a super amount of passion and confidence. Now, his confidence may have been shaken by Fizdale being a terrible coach and Mike Miller not knowing a basketball from a jack-o'-lantern. It's one of those deals where I think Mike Miller ruined Kevin Knox's sophomore year because Mike Miller doesn't know a basketball from a jack-o'-lantern. He's the dude picking up a basketball talking about trick or treat, in my opinion. But what about Frank Ntilikina? So Frank, in my opinion, is a player. I saw him sauce up Bradley Beal last year, and I knew his confidence was on 10. I saw him wear that tiger print blazer to the game, and I was like, a dude with low confidence don't wear tiger stripe blazers to the game. You know what I'm saying? Um, at the same time, what does that mean for Frank's offense? You know, that's a sore point for um, you know, point of contention for Knicks fans, for the front office, probably for Frank himself. So Frank shot 86% from the free throw line last year, and pundits say that free throw percentage is a true indicator of what a shooter can become. Well, Frank last year shot 31% from three and 86% from the free throw line, right? So I think this is my opinion only. It's not a confidence issue. I think Frank needs to find his spots where he can knock down that three. Is Frank a good corner three shooter, or is he top of the key or wing three shooter? To be honest with you, shooters that are confident in their shot will shoot that thing from anywhere. Their key is getting that shot off, not where you shoot it from. You know, the whole thing with Julius Randle, I think is a shame. I think Julius Randle is a pretty good player. I don't think he fits what the old coaches were looking to do. They want to put 5 people in the paint, and you know, it was just the most ridiculous offense you ever seen. It was, you know, they're running old Big East basketball in 2020. You know, it's crazy. They have like 3 big guys in the paint trying to score 2-foot lay. It was crazy. I'm so excited that Mike Miller ass is gone. I mean, look, I would have paid for his ticket out of town. You know, because you don't run horns to death. You know what I'm saying? You got Taj Gibson and Mitchell Robinson on each block. And I'm doing something new, something fancy. Man, I'm so glad that dude's gone. But anyway, in this arms race, what do the Knicks offer? Well, the Bucks are the gold standard in the Eastern Conference. They're loaded. The Knicks, they don't have missiles. They don't have rockets. They don't have guns. They don't have knives. They don't have slingshots. They barely have rocks. You know, they can have a bunch of them, and some of them are sharp, but they're nowhere close to what the Bucks are. So what I would say is this, and this is just for the Knicks portion of the video. I love the Knicks, man. Been a Knicks fan since like '77. You know what I'm saying? I was mad when Earl LaPearl retired. I remember Michael Ray Richardson. That was my guy. You know, and I used to be in Jersey City out in the cold shooting, kicking my feet on my jumper like Michael Ray Richardson. You know what I'm saying? Darryl Walker, all them guys, man. Truck Robinson. Anyway. I don't think the Knicks have anything. I think RJ Barrett has the potential to be an all-star. Is he that guy right now? No. I think Mitchell Robinson has the potential to be an all-star defensive player of the year. Is he that player right now? No. Right? But the Knicks do have a development staff in place and a dude that used to be a great head coach, a dude that was coach of the year one time. So we'll see where that gets the Knicks. Now on to the Western Conference. So the Lakers have AD and LeBron. That speaks for itself. So they have the best player on the planet and probably a top 5 player in AD, right? Of course, those 2 dudes can drag any, it don't even matter. They don't even need a Kuzma. They can take 13 dudes off a scrap heap and drag them to the Western Conference Finals because LeBron is just that good. And on nights that LeBron shows his age, AD is just that good or better. The Clippers, though, have Kawhi and Paul George. So I don't know what Playoff P is because I've never seen Playoff P do anything. Why is his name Playoff P? Good question, right? Good question. Kawhi, however, needs help playmaking. Paul George is not a playmaker, and Kawhi is not a playmaker for more than 20 minutes because he wears down in the fourth quarter. And you see what happened when him and Paul George tried to be the major ball handlers. If I'm the Clippers, Montrez, Zubats, Lou Will, Pat Bev, all those guys got to go. All of them. All of them. I'm scrapping the whole roster, keeping PG and Kawhi, and seeing if I can bring in like a Chris Paul. Because I think Chris Paul, with these two guys, are legit playoff contenders. And I know you're going to say, wait a minute. How can they pay all three of those guys? I think their salaries, for one, I think Ballmer will go over the salary cap to get Chris Paul, right? Secondly, how do you fill out the roster? For one, they're in LA, they're going to make money hand over fist. It doesn't matter. Listen, you're talking about Ballmer. Ballmer is the richest owner in North American sports, followed by the guy that just bought the Mets, whatever his name is. I keep forgetting his name. Cohen, whatever his name is. But shout out to the Mets and Mets fans anyway. So you have to go all in because you only have Paul George and Kawhi for one more year, right? And you traded away all your assets, all your first round picks in order to get Paul George, right? So you have to go all in for 1 year. You know, what does that mean? Is Fred VanVleet the answer? No. I think Chris Paul is the only answer. Chris Paul is the only answer. Anybody outside of Chris Paul, and to me, I think they lose the arms race. Because what they get out of their bigs, you can get from just about anywhere. I mean, you can get Dwayne Dedmon to do that, right? You can get Taj Gibson to do what they get out of their center and stuff. Pat Bev, defensive energy and offensive execution. Said he don't provide any offensive. Him and Lou Will, man, they just don't. They're not winners, basically. Paul George is not a winner, but he's so talented that when you put him next to Kawhi, it highlights Paul George's talents if Paul George is not an offensive initiator, right? Because Paul George can be top 5 player in the NBA when he gets in his bag. You know what I'm saying? He got in his bag with the Thunder, and listen, Paul George is legit. And I know y'all going to call him a choke artist because of the way he looked the past 2 years or whatever. But, man, look, the dude can flat out play. The dude can play, man. If I'm the Clippers, you got to – because Denver's not going away. Because Denver's going to re-sign Jeremy Grant, and there are all the other contracts. Listen, they're not going anywhere. Denver's got Jokic, Murray, Bol, Grant, MPJ, a bunch of wing players. Denver's not going anywhere. And if you're the Clippers, you're like, you know, do we bang our head against the wall, or do we legit add another Hall of Fame caliber player? And I say you legit add another Hall of Fame caliber player in Chris Paul. And you're like, well, we had Chris Paul. But you never had Chris Paul, Paul George, and Kawhi at the same time. You haven't. You hadn't seen anything that juicy. You know what I mean? I feel like you got to take that chance. So what did the Utah Jazz do? They have Spider and Rudy Gobert, right? I don't think you break that up. I don't. I think just because you have two dudes that don't like each other, all that means is you have two dudes that don't like each other. Right. What I do think they need to do, though, here's the thing: you trade them to the Knicks for Julius Randle and the number 21 pick. What? I know y'all are like, man, this is a Knicks homer video. Well, I mean, the name of the channel is Lawrence Tears. I mean, what do you expect, man? I mean, what? So and so y'all are like, well, if you trade him for Julius Randle, what do you do at point guard? Hey, you go get you an offensive minded point guard, and and rock from there, because Julius Randle is going to get you 20 and 10. That's just what it is. Julius Randle is going to get you 20 and 10. Behind, if Julius Randle is the third option, Julius Randle is going to get you 20 and 10, because Gobert is not going to get you 20 and 10. I'm telling you that right now. But so that leaves the New Orleans Pelicans and a few other teams. The Pelicans, all they really need is time, man. You know what I mean? All they need is 82 games from Zion, because Brandon Ingram as the alpha number one, I think gets them to the playoffs, because Brandon Ingram's got some dog in him. You know what I'm saying? Brandon Ingram's got that he'll slap your uncle type joint going on with him. Brandon Ingram, you better not touch my uncle, boy. But he got that in him, like he'll do it. You know what I'm saying? He's like, well, the party over. This party ain't over. he's got that in him, right? So I think all he needs is time and the right coach. I honestly think, though, if my gut is telling, and I have a pretty big gut, by the way, but my gut is telling me that if they sign like a Mike D'Antoni, bruh, if they sign like a Mike D'Antoni, bro, they have a point guard that'll fit Mike D'Antoni's grab it and go system. And I think Lonzo is probably built more for it than any point guard that, well, I take that back, because Steve Nash was two-time MVP. But just follow my line of thinking. Lonzo Ball is an excellent rebounder for the point guard position, and he's excellent at transition offense. So his half-court offense, not so much, but transition offense, very, very much so. And if he can get with a Mike D'Antoni that can teach him how to run offense in the half-court, New Orleans goes up some. You know, they would be on the uptick, definitely. And they have a lot of young, solid wings, too. So, man, I think that's a match made in heaven. And as far as 2020, 2021 goes, I don't know if they make serious noise in that year, but definitely a year after, a year in D'Antoni's system. And listen, nobody told me that. I'm not an NBA insider. You know, I'm not rubbing elbows with Woj, you know what I'm saying, anything like that. I'm just a random Knicks fan with some background on 2K and Madison Square Garden, going in there and watching us lose. That's about it. But these scenarios, however, are not. Let me put this disclaimer out there. This is not 2K talk. This is just me putting pieces together, looking at the NBA arms race, right? So what about Memphis, y'all? I don't know. I don't know. I think Memphis snuck up on some people last year, but I don't know where they're going to get consistent three-point shooting from. Jaren Jackson can shoot it. Dylan Brooks is okay. Ja can shoot it. But I don't know where. I mean, they don't have the guy that I think you game plan for. Like, they don't have the guy that you have a feeling that he's going to be like the knockdown shooter. At least I don't think so yet. But they do hustle. I think there's something to be said about a team that plays hard for all 48 minutes. I don't think you need to have sharp shooting threes when you have teams that to maybe offset that with fast break points. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying they're a fast break team. What I'm saying is they have guys that hustle, play hard, and may lead to that, where they can supplement that scoring for 3-point shooting for hustle points. Dallas. So Dallas is in this arms race for real, right? I don't know if they have enough. Luka seems to be a top 10 NBA player, right? Porzingis is a top 20 NBA player in my opinion. As a Knicks fan, I think I'm obligated to say that KP sucks, but I think the dude is a talented player. I think if both can stay healthy, I think they can win 50 games just with them two alone. I think those two, like LeBron and AD, they can pull off 50 wins with 13 other dudes. Do you know that you can find at 7-Eleven just because Rick Carlisle is a championship level coach in their front office, while morally they seem to be idiots. I think they do well putting smart rosters together. Tim Hardaway Jr. is not going to decline his option. You know he's going to get the bag, right? If he is, he's more of an idiot than what I thought. But I think they can Luka and KP can drag that team to 50 wins. What about Portland? So y'all know how I feel about Damian Lillard. I love Dame. The fact that he raps is dope to me. I would love to have that dude be our point guard. But in Portland, he is not a winner. I don't care what you say. You can say whatever you want. And he hit the shot over Paul George and made the face and all that stuff. That was funny in the moment, right? But I also saw him dislocate his finger reaching around Anthony Davis after Anthony Davis, a 6'11" power forward, blew by him. Think about that. A dude 6'11" blows by a dude that's 6'2". And I know all y'all damn apologists are going to be like, well, it was Anthony Davis. It's not just any random 6'11" guy. The fact is, Damian Lillard doesn't play defense, period. And stop making excuses because the dude's not a winner. You know what I mean? They got fortunate he got hot when you're in the playoffs and they made it to the Western Conference Finals, and Golden State wiped the floor with them. Wiped the floor with them, right? And it was all Damian Lillard's fault. And y'all can say what y'all want to say. Man, it's a team game, blah, blah, blah. No. So it's a team game. It's Dame time when he's shooting 30-footers and making it. But it's a team game when they losing by 17 in the fourth quarter. No, I don't subscribe to any of that stupidness. Because Jordan, Michael, and I know Jordan is not, who I should, but Jordan is the gold standard. Magic Johnson is the gold standard. Kobe and Shaq, the gold standard. Tim Duncan, the gold standard. When their teams were losing, they found a way defensively to help keep their teams in the game and score clutch baskets. Offensively, when they got in their bag, they were fantastic. So let's not say that Dame Lillard is not responsible for his team losing when he's the guy. That's Damian Lillard's team, right? That's Dame's team. But look, here's the thing, though. I mentioned the trade earlier. So I think a smart situation would be them trading for Kevin Love. So you jot out CJ, Dame, Kevin Love, and Nurkic, and some other piece that complements them. I think they have the two guys on the roster. I think it's going to be Gary Trent Jr. and Nasir Little. I think those are going to be the guys that fill in for them on the wing. But Kevin Love brings a championship pedigree. He's a rebounder, which that's something new for their power forwards. And he can shoot the three. And he can carry a team. Historically, he's been able to carry a team in short stretches. So if you get a Kevin Love and you go through this situation where it's like, we hadn't had a bucket in like such and such amount of minutes, let's give Kevin Love some run. I think that gets them to top 4 in the West, and potentially a threat to a top 4 team in the West. But I don't see them advancing any further with Damian Lillard because he's not a winner. So I mean, and I like Dame, and listen. I don't have any ill will towards Dame. I like Dame. I think the dude's come a long way, and he's like a stand-up dude. But he's not a winner. And you can't show me any example where you saw Damian Lillard take a team to the NBA Finals or anything like that. There are no examples. So, all right. So what do y'all think about So I have a couple of teams: Minnesota, Kansas City. I'm sorry, Minnesota, Sacramento, and Oklahoma City. So Minnesota has Cat and D'Lo. I think that is all hype, no substance. I think their coach is a newbie. They like him. I think they have some weird "we are family" thing going on there, but I don't see them progressing any further. Even if they draft, say Anthony Edwards #1, I think Anthony Edwards would probably be a decent fit, but I don't see that team making any noise. Sacramento, no, they're not going to make any noise. De'Aaron Fox, Bogdanovich, Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, unless they do something with the coaching there, I don't see them doing anything. Oklahoma City, probably a trade Chris Paul somewhere. But I don't see what Oklahoma. So here's the thing with Chris Paul. The playoff teams that want Chris Paul don't have the assets to get Chris Paul. Right? Your Clippers, they don't have any draft picks to trade because they traded them off of Paul George. And they're not going to take on weird contracts and all that stuff from the Clippers. They're not going to take on Pat Bev and all that. They ain't taking on all that because that don't make Oklahoma City better. All that does is impede the progress of their rebuild from the young guys that they have. Right? The Thunder, I think their best bet, I think their only bet is to engage in a 3-way deal with the Knicks and the Phoenix Suns in order for Phoenix to get Chris Paul, and the Knicks take on salary and get Oubre in the number 10 pick. That's it. I don't see any other team, because Phoenix doesn't have the cap space to just trade for Chris Paul straight up unless they give up something, right? They just don't have the cap space. It is what it is in terms of Chris Paul. Who knows where Chris Paul is going to wind up? But at $40 million a year, there are only a couple teams. Detroit, maybe. The Knicks, maybe. The Atlanta Hawks have cap space, but why would they trade for Chris Paul? All right. So your San Antonio Spurs are intriguing because DeJounte Murray is a player, right? No offense, all defense and athleticism, no offense. But they also have DeMar DeRozan. They have LaMarcus Aldridge, and they have who else do they have? Yeah, that's it. I don't think Popovich and their organization want to go out on the low. I think they want to make a run, right? But what do? Who can they? In my opinion, they have to trade away all these old contracts. They have to trade away DeMar DeRozan. They have to trade away LaMarcus Aldridge. They have to trade away Rudy Gay. They have to trade away. Well, I guess that's it because they won't trade DeJounte Murray because he has no value coming off a significant leg injury. But so I don't see the Sun. I don't know what the Suns can do. I just don't at this point. Maybe look to rebuild, trade away those contracts for draft picks. But who's going to trade for a 36-year-old LaMarcus Aldridge or a 34-year-old Rudy Gay or a 31-year-old DeMar DeRozan? I don't know what they're gonna do. So did we talk about? Oh, I think we have two more teams. Okay, so the Golden State Warriors in this arms race thing. I think the Golden State Warriors have the sneakiest arsenal of anybody in the NBA. Because if Steph Curry comes back healthy, Steph Curry is a 2-time MVP, 1-time unanimous. If Klay Thompson comes back healthy, he is second team All NBA, second team All Defense, right? And probably the sweetest stroke of anybody not named Steph Curry, right? They have Draymond Green, whose stats and numbers looked terrible last year, but he was playing with a bunch of nobodies who didn't know how to play. So last year was a throwaway year for Draymond Green. Draymond will be back. Mark my words. Draymond will be back, right? And they also have Andrew Wiggins. and they also have the number 2 pick. So now you say, well, wow, I have 4 really good players, and not including Pascal and the other guys that were young rookies, whatever, second year player, whatever, Bell, I don't know. So they have 4 really good players. Notice most teams that I mentioned only had 2 really good players. Golden State has 4, and they have the number 2 pick in the draft. That's intriguing, right? So they have a number of things that they can do. They can consolidate their third best player, right? They can take Draymond and I'm not saying they will, because Draymond is the heart and soul of Golden State. They'll never trade him. But they can take Draymond and Andrew Wiggins, their salaries, and maybe go after a Giannis with that number 2 pick and future first round picks, right? Well, why would the Bucks do this? Giannis is not guaranteed to sign that max extension when offered. And the more the clock ticks, the more pressure is on the organization, right? But the organization is backed into a corner. They have no money. If they had money, they would have re-signed Brogdon last summer. They signed a whole bunch of dudes, to make this run, and the run came up short. Now they're out of assets. They basically fired all the bullets out of the gun and just have the gun left. What are they going to do, throw the gun at somebody? No, they have to change their position. They have to say, trade Giannis, go into immediate rebuild mode. Like, trade Giannis to Golden State for the number 2 pick, Andrew Wiggins, and the future draft picks, and trade Chris Middleton immediately afterwards to get future draft picks and start a smart rebuild. Because the Bucks just don't have any bullets left in their transaction gun. What did they can't do anything. The same people that they want to sign or trade for are the same players that other playoff teams want to sign or trade for, right? Except the Bucks have a lot fewer assets, right? So if you're Golden State, do you trade for a Giannis? Of course you do. Of course you do. Because you say, hey, Giannis, look, you said your number 1 priority is winning championships. Well, we've won 3 out of the last 5 championships. And we signed a league MVP caliber guy, and he came to play with us, and he won 2 championships. That's what you want, right? You want championships? And so Giannis would be like, man, that's a punk move, man. Leaving my team, my organization to come play for y'all and win a championship. Who's wearing number 34 right now? Give me number 34, man, and hurry up. But anyway, so that's one move. That's one move that Golden State can do. At the same time, they can also go get a guy like Ben Simmons, who you slide him in as the small forward, right, or power forward, whatever. But on offense, he's like having a second Draymond Green. So it's like you have except of course, Ben Simmons is an excellent perimeter defender, ball handler, all that stuff. Man, you free up. I will go on record saying that if Ben Simmons goes, if they trade for Ben Simmons will be in the MVP conversation, because you can't double him, you can't double Clay, and you can't double Steph. Right? So now you have random NBA defender in front of Ben Simmons. Can you imagine how many dunks per game he's going to have if you can't double team him? Or if you look to double or run the 3-2 zone against Ben Simmons, can you imagine leaving Steph and Clay open in corners? Because you have 3 guys at the top and 2 guys that cover the baseline. So the pass, so all it takes is 1 pass to the middle and 1 kick out to whichever defender collapsed to that guy. Steph Curry in the corner, wide open for 3. Claymond. I just said Claymond. Hey, Klay Thompson, wide open in the corner for 3. Can you imagine? So what do you give up? You give up Andrew Wiggins, the number 2 pick, and maybe something else. I think Andrew Wiggins and the number 2 pick should be enough for Philly. And then plus, man, Andrew Wiggins' daddy played for the Sixers. Can you imagine what he'll feel like, right? And then with the number 2 pick in the draft, the Philadelphia 76ers select LaMelo Ball. Can you imagine LaMelo Ball in Philadelphia? Right? The scenario sounds far-fetched, right? You're like, no, that's too far-fetched, Uncle Freezy. Listen, all of these are far-fetched, really. The arms race issue is not far-fetched because on your mark, get set, go. This is going to be an arms race. And your Knicks are in it. Believe it or not, your Knicks are in it because they have assets, right? Teams are going to be, you don't know if they're going to play a short season next year. You don't know when the season is going to start. You don't know what the salary cap number is going to be. All you know is that LeBron James is entering the end of his career. He is probably at the end of his career, right? You also have Giannis Antetokounmpo about to hit free agency, right? Possibly, potentially, right? All these things lead to uncertainty and teams wanting to strike while the iron is hot, right? So there's one last team that I want to talk to y'all about. It's the Houston Rockets. Russell Westbrook and James Harden can't play together. It don't matter. You can say whatever scenario you want. James Harden is a 2. That's ball dominant. Russell Westbrook is a 1. That's ball dominant. Russell Westbrook's numbers took a huge dip just coming to Houston. And so did Chris Paul playing next to James Harden. Look those numbers up for yourself before you say these guys are washed up. These guys aren't washed up. They played with James Harden and their numbers took severe hits, right? Because they were ball dominant. They get to Houston. James Harden's not sharing the ball with anybody, period, right? So if you're Houston, what do? Do you trade James Harden? Do you trade Russell Westbrook? If I'm Houston, I'll blow the whole thing up because the roster is not built to win. Houston got down to the Lakers, and you saw they had 0 fight left, right? James Harden is not a winner. James Harden is the equivalent of a Alex English, George Gervin, Carmelo Anthony type guy that scores a lot, looks great, you know, in the regular season. The playoffs come, they just don't have enough. You know, I hate to say that about George Gervin, but he wasn't a winner, you know, and winning is the reason why we play. You know, you play to win, Herm Edwards. So, you know, it's one of those deals where, you know, Houston, in my opinion, Houston, in my opinion, should blow it up. And the reason being is because they're cash strapped, right? And I don't know how many draft picks that they have, but I think they should trade James Harden and Russell Westbrook. And here's the scenario I had in mind. Trade James Harden to the Golden State Warriors, right? I mean, they have assets. They have young players. They have Wiggins, the number 2 pick, and future first-round picks. No team. I think if they acquire James Harden, then you have a situation where they may look at winning 70 games, because there'll be nights when James Harden, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry get hot at the same time, and nobody in NBA history is able to stop a Steph Curry when he's hot, period. There's a clip on YouTube when Steph Curry got so hot against the Washington Wizards, he just flicked the ball in the air, like 100 feet in the air, and it came down straight net. You know, James Harden gets hot, you know, the sky's the limit for any team. And then James Harden on a team where he doesn't have to be the primary ball handler, where he can basically take nights off and just score 25. I mean, you know, the sky's the limit. Golden State's fortunate. They're in a fortunate situation where they have the number 2 pick, Andrew Wiggins, Eric Pascal. You know, Houston would take that, because at the end of the day, Houston could take that pick and draft them a James Wiseman, who I believe is a 7-foot Chris Bosh. That's what I see when I see James Wiseman. You know, when I looked at Chris Bosh at Georgia Tech, it looks like James Wiseman at Memphis, in my opinion. Now, this is Uncle Freezy. You know, that's Uncle Freezy's opinion. I didn't hear that anywhere. You know, that's my opinion. That's what I saw. I'm not a scouting expert, but I do trust what my eyes tell me I saw. And I think he's a Chris Bosh. Do you trade James Harden for a young dude like a young Chris Bosh? I say you do. Because if you remember Chris Bosh in Toronto before being one of the Heatles, he used to give LeBron the business. He used to give Carmelo the business. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's when he sacrificed his game in order to win championships in Miami. But don't forget, Toronto, Chris Bosh was a beast. It's the reason why they wanted him in Miami. You know, he didn't just go to Miami because he was a scrub. You know what I mean? And so what do you do with Russell Westbrook? What do you do with the Westbrook? I think you look to maybe move him to a playoff team or a team that has zero teams with that are unassuming, like the Orlando Magic, where they can build their entire franchise around that guy. You know what I'm saying? Who else? Who else would you? Orlando Magic, a Charlotte Hornets. Who else? Whoever. But get your draft picks, Houston. Get your young player and your draft picks and rebuild. It just makes too much sense. James Harden's not a winner. Russell Westbrook, man, look, just go ahead and blow it up, man. Start all over. Y'all, Houston Rockets y'all do rebuilds really quick. I remember y'all had Yao, Steve Francis, Tracy McGrady, and then after that y'all had like a James Harden, Dwight Howard. Then after that y'all had like James Harden, Chris Paul. So y'all do it quick down in Houston, man. So just go ahead and do that. Now back to my Knicks in this arms race, just to wrap up. So the Knicks could have a lot of assets. In my opinion, the Knicks have the most assets in the NBA. And I know y'all laugh, but the Knicks have salary cap space, which is valuable. They have young players that have limited value, depending on which young player you're referencing. They have draft picks, you know, which we don't want to trade away. But in the right deal, I mean, how can you say no? Right? If I'm the Knicks in this arms race, I say I'm not gonna try to jump in and say we're the Milwaukee Bucks. What I would say is build through the draft and just go from there. Again, this is your man Uncle Freezy. The super long video, man. I'm tired. You know what I'm saying? But not too tired to talk about basketball, man. I love NBA basketball. I love the Knicks, and I'm sure that y'all do too. Like and subscribe to the channel, man. I want to continue to do videos like this one, maybe not as long, but I had to have some context in order to look at the big picture. So, you know, like, subscribe to the channel, comment in the comment boxes below. Y'all been on fire with that. I kind of like that. I look forward to that. Walking around with my phone, chopping it up with y'all, replying to what I say on these videos and stuff, man. That's fun. And share these on your social media. I'm about to share this on Twitter in a little while. Again, shout out to Nick's Twitter. Nick's Twitter is the GOAT. All right, y'all. Peace.